Ladies and gentlemen, embracing responsibility is the foundation of growth, strength, and true freedom. It is the act of taking ownership of one's life, decisions, and actions without seeking excuses or blaming external forces. The world does not cater to our desires or our comfort. It moves forward with or without us. To truly live with purpose and power, we must recognize that our lives are shaped by the choices we make, the discipline we maintain, and the burdens we willingly carry. Responsibility is not a weight that shackles us, it is the very force that liberates us from weakness and dependence. In youth, it is easy to believe that the world owes us something, that fairness and justice will always prevail, and that guidance will always be provided. But this illusion must be shattered for a man to rise. No one is coming to save us. No one is responsible for our success or failure but ourselves. We may be dealt misfortune, hardship, or injustice, but what matters is not what happens to us, but how we respond. The man who waits for rescue, for fortune to smile upon him, or for others to carve his path remains a prisoner of circumstance. The man who takes responsibility for his own destiny, regardless of the obstacles, is the one who will stand unbroken. Responsibility demands action. It is not enough to recognize what must be done, one must do it. Hesitation, procrastination, and self-pity are the refuge of those who refuse to accept the weight of their existence. To embrace responsibility is to face challenges with courage and decisiveness. It is to understand that the burdens we bear are not punishments, but necessary trials that shape us into stronger beings. The weak seek to avoid struggle, the strong accept it and grow from it. This path is not easy. Responsibility is a lonely road at times. It requires making difficult choices, standing by principles when others falter, and accepting that blame cannot be shifted elsewhere. But with this weight comes strength. The more we bear, the more capable we become. The man who takes responsibility for his actions and his future is the man who cannot be controlled, for he relies on no one but himself. He does not surrender to fear, nor does he seek excuses. He does what must be done because it is his duty, and duty is not a burden but a privilege. True power lies not in controlling others, but in mastering oneself. A man who refuses responsibility is a man at the mercy of the world. He is a leaf tossed by the wind, reacting to forces beyond his control. But a man who embraces responsibility stands like a mountain against the storm. He does not wait for permission to act. He does not ask for validation. He does not fear failure. If he falls, he rises. If he is struck down, he learns. He does not complain about his fate, he shapes it. The essence of responsibility is understanding that we alone dictate our response to life's challenges. Pain, loss, and hardship will come, but they are not excuses to surrender. Every obstacle is an opportunity to prove one's resilience. Every hardship is a test of one's character. Weak men see struggle as an enemy, strong men see it as a crucible. It is through responsibility that a man becomes worthy of respect, both from others and from himself. The man who blames others for his failures cannot respect himself, for he knows deep down that he has surrendered his power. But the man who takes full ownership of his life, who refuses to shift blame, who accepts the consequences of his actions with dignity, this is the man who commands respect. There is no greater freedom than knowing that your life is in your hands. No excuses. No complaints. Only action. To embrace responsibility is to embrace life itself. It is to accept that you are the master of your fate, the architect of your character, and the author of your story. No one can walk this path for you. No one can bear your burdens. But in carrying them yourself, you become something greater, a man worthy of his own respect, unshaken by the tempests of the world. Comfort is a silent killer. It lulls men into complacency, dulls the sharp edge of ambition, and weakens the resolve necessary to overcome life's trials. The instinct to seek comfort is natural, but it is also a trap. It tempts with ease, with warmth, with the illusion of security, but in exchange it takes away strength, resilience, and the capacity to grow. To become more than we are, we must be willing to let go of comfort, to abandon the soft refuge of ease, and step willingly into discomfort, for that is where transformation occurs. A man who clings to comfort remains stagnant. He avoids hardship, avoids risk, and avoids the difficult path that leads to greatness. But nothing worth having is attained without struggle. Strength is forged in adversity, wisdom is earned through pain, and discipline is cultivated through sacrifice. The body does not grow strong without resistance, nor does the mind sharpen without challenge. The soft path, the easy road, may seem inviting, but it leads only to mediocrity. It is the man who chooses discomfort, who seeks challenge rather than fleeing from it, who becomes something more than he was. Comfort breeds weakness. It allows the mind to grow soft, the body to become frail, and the will to erode. A man who seeks comfort in all things is a man who will break the moment hardship strikes. He has not prepared himself for suffering, and so he will crumble beneath it. Life does not spare the weak. It does not care for those who are unprepared. It only respects those who have trained themselves to endure, to persist, to stand unyielding even when everything around them falls apart. And that training comes not from ease but from difficulty. It is only by stepping outside of comfort, by embracing hardship, that one can truly be prepared for the trials of life. There is a reason why discipline is hard, why success is rare, and why so many men fail to reach their potential. It is because most choose comfort over challenge. They choose to stay in bed when they should rise early. They choose pleasure when they should choose restraint. They choose the familiar when they should venture into the unknown. And with every choice of comfort over discipline, they become weaker, less capable, less prepared to take on the world. The man who rejects comfort, who willingly places himself in difficult situations, is the man who gains mastery over himself. He does not wait for motivation, nor does he seek permission. He does what must be done because he has trained himself to do so, because he has severed the attachment to comfort that holds so many back. Letting go of comfort is not about suffering for its own sake. It is about preparing oneself for the reality of life. It is about forging resilience so that when challenges arise, they are met with calm determination rather than fear. It is about developing the kind of discipline that does not waver, the kind of strength that does not break. The man who has lived in discomfort, who has trained himself to embrace hardship, is the man who will stand firm when others fall. He has been tested, and he has endured. To let go of comfort is to choose growth over stagnation, to choose strength over weakness. It is to refuse the easy path and instead walk the difficult one, knowing that it is the only path worth walking. It is to welcome discomfort, knowing that in doing so, we shed the parts of ourselves that are weak and cultivate the parts that are strong. The world belongs to those who refuse comfort, to those who embrace struggle, to those who understand that ease is not the goal, greatness is. And greatness is never found in comfort. Desire is fleeting, unreliable, and easily swayed by emotion, while discipline is steady, unwavering, and the foundation of true strength. To live by desire alone is to be at the mercy of every impulse, every temptation, every momentary craving. It is to surrender control, to let the winds of pleasure and comfort dictate one's actions. But a man who chooses discipline over desire chooses mastery over himself. He does not act based on what feels good in the moment, but on what is necessary for his growth, his strength, and his purpose. The world tempts with indulgence, with ease, with the promise of immediate gratification. It tells men to chase pleasure, to follow their passions, to take the easy road because life is short. But life is not measured in fleeting moments of enjoyment. It is measured in what is built, in what is endured, in the mark one leaves behind. A man ruled by desire builds nothing lasting. He chases what is pleasurable today, only to find himself lost and weak tomorrow. He seeks comfort at the cost of strength, indulgence at the cost of discipline, and in the end, he is left with nothing but regret. The man who places discipline above desire, however, understands that fulfillment does not come from chasing temporary pleasure, but from the mastery of the self. Discipline is the ability to act despite feeling, to push forward when motivation fades, to do what must be done regardless of how one feels in the moment. It is what separates those who achieve from those who dream, those who endure from those who crumble. A man ruled by desire does what he feels like doing. A man ruled by discipline does what he must. He wakes up early even when he wants to sleep in. He trains when his body tells him to rest. He works when his mind tells him to procrastinate. He does not negotiate with himself because he understands that his feelings are unreliable, that desire is deceptive, and that true power comes from consistency, not emotion. The strongest men, the most capable, the most unshakable, are not those who simply have talent or intelligence. They are those who have mastered the ability to act with discipline, who do not allow desire to dictate their actions. They have conditioned themselves to withstand temptation, to push through hardship, to persist even when their minds and bodies scream for comfort. They understand that every act of discipline strengthens the will, while every surrender to desire weakens it. The man who trains himself to act with discipline in small matters will act with discipline in great ones. The man who gives in to desire in the small things will fall when true hardship comes. There is no greatness without discipline. Talent fades, intelligence without action is useless, and motivation is temporary. But discipline is permanent. It is the force that allows a man to push beyond his limits, to sharpen himself through hardship, to remain focused when others waver. It is not something that is given. It is something that is built day by day, choice by choice, until it becomes who a man is rather than something he must force. To choose discipline over desire is to choose long-term strength over short-term pleasure, to choose mastery over surrender, to choose the path of resilience rather than the path of ease. The world will always offer distractions, temptations, reasons to take the easy path. But a man who has chosen discipline does not waver. He does not seek the approval of his desires, he commands them. He does not let impulse dictate his path, he forges his own. Every man must make a choice, to be ruled by fleeting desires or to master himself through discipline. One path leads to regret, to weakness, to a life controlled by external forces. The other leads to strength, to mastery, to a life defined by purpose and action. Suffering is inevitable. No man walks through life without facing hardship, pain, or loss. It is an unavoidable reality, one that many fear and resist. But suffering is not the enemy, it is a teacher. It shapes, refines, and reveals what lies beneath the surface. A man who runs from suffering runs from growth. A man who embraces it, who learns from it, who allows it to forge him into something stronger, is the one who rises above his circumstances. Comfort weakens, but suffering strengthens if one is willing to endure and extract the lessons it offers. Those who avoid suffering at all costs remain fragile, untested, and unprepared for life's inevitable storms. They fear hardship because they have never trained themselves to withstand it. But the man who has faced suffering, who has endured pain without breaking, who has stood in the fire and refused to fall, he is the man who cannot be shaken. He has learned that pain is not something to be feared, but something to be understood and to be understood. Suffering strips away illusion. It reveals what truly matters, exposing the weakness in a man's mind and spirit. It forces him to confront his limitations, his fears, and his failures. Many see this as cruel, as an unfair burden placed upon them. But the wise understand that suffering is a mirror. It shows a man exactly who he is. Weak men curse suffering, blaming fate, others, or circumstances for their pain. Strong men use suffering as a tool, taking what it teaches and applying it to become greater than they were before. Nothing worth having is achieved without struggle. Strength is built in the gym through resistance. Wisdom is gained through mistakes. Resilience is forged in adversity. A life without suffering is a life without growth, a life of stagnation and weakness. Those who live in constant comfort, avoiding hardship at all costs, may feel safe, but they are unprepared for reality. The world does not cater to weakness. It respects those who have endured, who have suffered, who have turned their pain into power. Suffering also teaches patience and endurance. There are moments in life when all seems lost, when hardship feels unbearable, when the weight of existence crushes down without mercy. It is in these moments that true strength is revealed. The man who gives in, who allows suffering to break him, remains weak, forever controlled by his circumstances. But the man who endures, who stands firm despite the pain, emerges stronger than he ever thought possible. He learns that he can withstand more than he believed, that he is not defined by his suffering, but by how he responds to it. Pain is a test, a proving ground. It asks one question: will you rise or will you fall? Those who rise are those who understand that suffering is not unfair, nor is it meaningless. It is a teacher, a guide, a necessary force that forges men into something greater. Those who fall are those who refuse to learn, who resent the struggle instead of using it. Life does not spare anyone from suffering, but it does separate those who grow from it from those who are destroyed by it. The strongest men in history, those who have left a mark, have all suffered. They have endured hardship, pain and loss, but instead of allowing it to crush them, they used it to fuel their rise. They understood that suffering was not there to destroy them, but to build them into something greater. Every hardship, every failure, every painful moment is an opportunity to strengthen the mind, to sharpen the will, to become unbreakable. No man chooses suffering, but every man chooses how he responds to it. Those who see it as a curse will always be its victim. Those who see it as a teacher will always emerge stronger. Suffering will come, this is certain. What matters is what a man does with it. Will he let it define him, break him, control him? Or will he use it, learn from it, and allow it to forge him into something greater? The answer to that question determines everything. A man who seeks validation from others is a man who has given away his power. He lives not for himself, but for the approval of the crowd, constantly shaping his actions to fit their expectations. He is a slave to opinion, controlled by the shifting tides of external judgment. But a man who is indifferent to validation from the outside world is free. He walks his own path, guided not by the praise or criticism of others, but by his own values, his own principles, and his own sense of purpose. He does not ask for permission to be who he is. He simply is. External validation is fleeting. One day a man may be admired, respected, and celebrated. The next he may be ridiculed, condemned, or forgotten. Those who live for approval chase something they can never truly hold. Their sense of worth is not rooted in who they are, but in how others perceive them. This is a weak foundation, one that crumbles at the first sign of rejection or criticism. The man who relies on validation will always fear losing it. He will hesitate, compromise, and betray his own beliefs just to maintain the favor of others. But no matter how much he pleases them, he will never find true peace, because his self-worth is not his own, it belongs to the world. To be truly strong, a man must detach himself from the opinions of others. This does not mean he ignores wisdom or refuses to learn, but that he does not allow praise or criticism to dictate his sense of self. He is guided by internal principles, not by external approval. He does what is right, not what is popular. He speaks the truth, even if it makes him hated. He acts with integrity, even if it isolates him. He does not fear rejection, because he does not need acceptance to feel complete. The world is filled with voices telling men who they should be, how they should act, and what they should value. Those who listen too closely to these voices lose themselves. They become fragmented, constantly adjusting to fit the expectations of different groups, never fully embracing who they truly are. A man who seeks validation from society, from friends, from family, from strangers, will always be pulled in different directions, never standing firm in his own identity. But the man who remains indifferent to external validation is unmoved. He does not shift with the crowd. He remains steady, true to himself, regardless of how others respond. This kind of independence requires strength. It is easy to follow the herd, to align with the majority, to avoid standing out. It is difficult to walk alone, to hold firm to one's beliefs in the face of criticism, to refuse to bend for approval. But those who fear standing alone will never know true freedom. They will always be at the mercy of others, altering themselves to fit in, silencing their own voice to be accepted. This is not living, it is existing as a reflection of other people's expectations. Many men waste their lives trying to be liked, respected, or admired, only to find that no amount of approval fills the emptiness inside them. They achieve what they believe will bring them validation, status, wealth, recognition, only to realize that it was never about those things. It was always about the fear of being insignificant, of being rejected, of being alone. But true confidence, true self-respect, comes not from others, but from within. The man who has mastered himself does not need the world's approval. He does not seek applause, nor does he fear criticism. He knows who he is, and that is enough. There is power in detachment. When a man stops seeking validation, he becomes unshakable. He is no longer manipulated by praise or broken by insults. He no longer compromises his values for acceptance. He acts with conviction because his actions are driven by his own principles, not by a desire to be liked. He becomes immune to the control of others because he does not need their permission to be himself. The world will always try to mold men into what it wants them to be. It will reward conformity and punish defiance. But the strongest men are those who refuse to be shaped by external forces. They are the ones who stand firm, indifferent to validation, unafraid of rejection. They do not follow, they lead. They do not ask, they take. They do not seek approval, they seek truth. And in doing so, they become truly free. Indecision is a silent killer. It weakens the mind, erodes confidence, and leaves a man at the mercy of his circumstances. The inability to act, to commit, to move forward with conviction, is what separates those who shape their own destiny from those who drift through life, waiting for the world to decide for them. A man who hesitates, who overthinks, who allows fear to paralyze him, will always find himself behind, watching as others seize the opportunities he was too slow to grasp. But the man who acts decisively, who does not waver when the moment calls for action, is the man who commands his own fate. Decisiveness is a skill, a mindset, and a necessity for any man who wishes to be strong. It is not about always making the perfect choice, but about making a choice and standing by it. Too many men waste their lives trapped in uncertainty, waiting for the right moment, the perfect conditions, the absolute guarantee of success before they move. But that moment never comes. Perfection is an illusion, and waiting for certainty is the same as choosing failure. Life rewards those who take action, who commit, who embrace the unknown rather than fear it. Fear is at the root of indecision. Fear of failure, fear of making the wrong choice, fear of judgment. But to be ruled by fear is to be ruled by weakness. A man who fears failure will never achieve greatness, because every great endeavor requires risk. No decision comes with absolute certainty, but inaction guarantees regret. The strong man understands that failure is not the enemy, stagnation is. He knows that mistakes can be corrected, lessons can be learned, and wrong turns can be adjusted, but an opportunity lost is often lost forever. Hesitation breeds weakness. Every moment spent overthinking is a moment that could have been spent acting. A man who constantly second-guesses himself will find his confidence eroding, his will weakening, and his ability to trust his own judgment fading. The more a man hesitates, the more difficult it becomes to take action. Indecision becomes a habit, and like all habits, it strengthens the more it is indulged. But decisiveness is also a habit, one that must be cultivated through practice. The more a man chooses to act even in the face of uncertainty, the stronger his ability to make quick, confident decisions becomes. A decisive man moves with purpose. He does not wait for someone else to take the lead. He does not ask for permission to pursue what he knows is right. He does not waste time analyzing every possible outcome when the time for action has arrived. He gathers the necessary information, weighs his options, and then acts fully, completely, and without hesitation. And once he has acted, he does not look back with doubt. He adapts if needed, but he does not waste energy regretting what cannot be undone. There is power in action. The man who acts even imperfectly achieves more than the man who waits for perfection. The man who steps forward, even into uncertainty, gains experience, knowledge, and strength, while the man who hesitates remains exactly where he is, unchanged, untested, and powerless. Life does not reward those who wait. It rewards those who seize, who move, who refuse to let hesitation rob them of their potential. No man is born decisive. It is a trait that must be built. It is developed through practice, through forcing oneself to make choices, to commit, to trust in one's ability to adapt. The more a man chooses action over hesitation, the more natural it becomes. Decisiveness is not recklessness, it is the willingness to act despite uncertainty, the ability to move forward without absolute guarantees, and the confidence to trust oneself in the face of the unknown. Every great man in history, every leader, every warrior, every builder of empires understood this truth. Action creates momentum, and momentum creates results. Those who hesitate, who dwell in uncertainty, who fear making the wrong choice, will always be left behind. The decisive man moves first, strikes first, and adapts as necessary. He does not wait to be given direction, he creates his own. He does not wait for permission, he takes what is his. He does not fear mistakes, he learns from them and continues forward. To act decisively is to take control of one's own life. It is to reject passivity, to refuse to be a spectator in one's own story. It is to move with purpose, with confidence, and with the understanding that the only real failure is inaction. The world belongs to those who are willing to take it, to those who step forward when others hesitate, to those who understand that the future is built not by those who wait, but by those who act. A man's life is shaped not by the opportunities he is given, but by the decisions he makes. Hesitation leads to regret, while action leads to growth. The future does not belong to those who wait, it belongs to those who move, who decide, who take control. In every moment of uncertainty, a choice must be made, to stand still and let life dictate the outcome, or to step forward and seize it with unwavering resolve. The strong man does not wait for permission, nor does he fear imperfection. He acts, he adapts, and he forges his own path. Act decisively, for in action lies power, and in power lies freedom.